Good evening, everybody. December 4th, 2021. Let's look at Bitcoin here. So last night, after I did the video, we obviously had a giant capitulation wick here. So what that means, it's not necessarily a bad thing in my opinion. I was always saying, potentially we're moving down into this lower 40K region. And the thought originally last night was we were getting a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 down just to this area, then we'd see a bounce up, and then maybe we proceed downwards from there, kind of over the next few days or weeks or whatever, still not ending this overall correction. So what Bitcoin has done, which I mentioned today in the group, is basically just accelerate this. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this count. It's pretty much pointless at this time. That resistance did in fact push us down, but obviously that support failed right there, and we saw kind of a liquidation cascade here as Bitcoin price just kept going lower and lower and lower. We had stop losses hit and liquidations come in and all sorts of stuff on people using leverage. So it did spike on the Binance chart anyway. It did spike briefly below that 43K region that I had been saying, really, we don't want to see it go below that. I said on the update previously, if we see a sustained break of 43K, that would give me pause and would indicate to me that we are going down again into that 30K area, which I had mentioned as a possibility. However, with this wick down below, that is not a sustained break, not even a little bit. That is a very brief breakdown, and we had it push back up within that hour. It went from a low of 42K, pushed all the way back up to 47.5. So, and this volume here, this is classic capitulation. Okay, markets do not capitulate and then continue going down. Typically, especially considering the larger picture that we're looking at as well. This to me looks like a clear bottom. Now, does that mean we are immediately going back up? No, not necessarily. It would be wonderful if we just get a V correction and immediately go up, and we could do that. Certainly possible. There was enough liquidity just dried up, enough liquidations, and enough of a shakeout here that we certainly could do that. But please recall back all the way back here when we had that initial drop down into the 30K region. Let's just zoom back. Okay, we had obviously big scary drop, right? And then we continued down. This was the capitulation here. This was the volume and that capitulation wick that we saw there, very similar to what we just saw. It did not, it kind of started doing a V, but then we just chopped, and this took months. It took 2 months of chop in order to go up from here. It was a different time in the market and in the overall scheme of things, making what was likely the fourth wave. So I don't expect that necessarily. I don't expect 2 months of consolidation, because we are just in a different time right now. We're more progressed along in the bull market. We should be in the midst of the fifth wave probably here. But it is certainly well within the realm of possibility that we kind of chop around here for a while before making our way up. And again, it kind of stands to reason that as long as we don't have a sustained break of that 43K region, we should have seen bottom there. Can we get a quick spike down and back up? That would be fine again. So it's certainly still a bit of a risk to do any sort of leverage. I certainly wouldn't do high leverage trading right now. The gold standard, as I've spoken about before, is that we need to see this form 5 waves up off the low in order to confirm, and that could take the form of I'd have to go down to the micro, but maybe we've got a little micro 1, 2 there. Maybe we're doing a 3, 4, and 5. So if we get something up that looks like this, and then we get a correction back down from there, that would be a good place to buy if we have a fully formed 5 waves down on the micro chart. So let's take a quick look down there. Let's go like 15 minutes, see. Might have to go even more micro than that. Let's go down to 5. And just see if we have any hope of that being the case. Maybe. Let's just draw a fib extension here. Just see what it might take in order for this to prove kind of 5 waves up. So that would be our fib extension there if that's going to be our 1 and 2. The 2 looks clear. Obviously with such quick action, it's hard to say when these first waves start off. It's hard to say, is that truly a first wave or not? But let's call that 1 and 2 for now as a potential. And what we would need to see happen then to prove 5 waves up would be this. 3 should go somewhere at least up to this region right here, 55. 4 should come down and hold somewhere in the 51 to 52 range, and then 5 up to like 58 or so. So if we get 5 waves up to at least 58K, that could already be the bottom, and this would sort of be that V-shaped recovery. It is obviously not confirmed until we do get those 5 waves fully formed, and then we should have a pullback after that back down into like the low 50s. I would guesstimate based on the chart right now, and that then would be the ideal time to kind of leverage buy. Now that being said, I did some low leverage buying last night when we were in this area here. I just said, you know what, I'm going to go 1x leverage with half of my stack, and just ride it, because we should get a bounce at a minimum. We should get a bounce off of these lows here, and we have obviously progressed upwards from that region, so we'll see if we can get all the way up here if we continue to chop around for a while before getting those 5 waves up. So in the bigger picture, I've mentioned it before. Let me go over to the daily chart. I was looking for, after we broke the original diagonal I was looking then for an ABC down basically to be the second wave in a larger diagonal. So I think at this point with this action I can pretty much get rid of the orange count. So that's gone. I'm going to say I'm going to get rid of this fib. I don't need that anymore, considering we are likely in a diagonal. And what we're going to do is label this, I think, is pretty clearly A, B, C up in that first wave right there. So we're going to get this large diagonal doing ABCs up, ABCs down, and you can see here coming down. Let me make this invisible on the daily chart because it's just making things messy right now. Get rid of that. This fib, I'm going to keep this fib on just for the moment. Maybe not. Let me just get rid of it. I'm going to get rid of that. We'll keep the green box on though. Okay, so that's kind of, we don't want to go below that green box, obviously. But anyway, we needed to see the ABC down to form 2, and we have now done that. And if you recall, I was counting 5 waves down here. This B wave was shallow. That was the only unfortunate thing about this, is how shallow that was. It didn't really give me a full 3 waves. And then we had our capitulation wick down as the C wave in here. So that's fine there. This is our count up. I'm going to make that invisible on the daily too. Okay. So just so we're looking at larger picture here, this should now form a diagonal. The next wave up for 3 should be, at a minimum, it should be the same length as 1. So we can draw on here, looks like 98K for that third wave. That would be the same length, right? So the 1.0 extension of that is 98K. So that's what we're going to be looking at, I think, next. A minimum of 98K, potentially up to 120. And then from there, we'll get another violent move, right? So this was ugly violence. Once 1 ended, we had ugly violence down in 2. Once 3 ends, somewhere in this region, we will have ugly violence down in 4. It could come quite deep. I mean, it could visit down here to the 65K region again. and we'll just have to see. We'll have a better idea when 3 is in place where 4 might go, but it can be violent, and then we'll have a final move up in 5, and it could potentially lead us up here more into the 160 region. But let's just continue to watch this and see how this forms. But I think at the moment it is reasonable to expect, like I said, we get at least 98. So let's say, this is going to depend how quickly it gets there, right, where this diagonal goes. But once 3 is in place, we'll do this, and then it'll come down here and get tagged to the bottom of 2. So this is just, argument's sake, let's say we get that, and we'll get 3 waves up just like we did here, right? We got A, B, C up in 1, we're going to get A, B, C up in 3 to wherever that happens to go to, and then once that's in place, we draw the channel just like this, and then that'll give us our target for 4 and also for 5. I believe that is how the end of this bull market is going to play out. That is what it is looking like, and what I will assume is going to happen, unless somehow we can get above that 1, 2, 3, 6. So if we can get above there and kind of shove higher, if we go in a straight line up to 166 from here, we're back to a normal, quote unquote, normal impulse, right? Even though this was super deep and this is all weird action in here. I don't see this as a high probability. Let me just state that right now. I don't see this as a high probability, but if we were able to break upwards here and do a straight line to 166, we would then expect something like this and an end to the bull market at 230,000. I don't expect that to be the case. I can't say that enough. Okay, I expect this. I expect this choppiness. I expect this diagonal, but I'm just stating what I would consider it to be if we saw instead a sustained break upwards instead, a large push upwards like that. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at there, and keep in mind if we fail to hold that 43K region, we are still in we still have to consider the bearish possibility that we see an expanded flat correction like this can lead us back down into the 30Ks, potentially under. We could go back into 27, 28. We could go under these lows and scare everybody off. But even in that instance, I believe we still need one more wave up, and we will likely then see a 5-wave move from there. So even if we come back down into that region, it'll simply be another buying opportunity. Now hopefully somewhere along the way here, we would stop out of spot positions and kind of prepare for that lower eventuality and then rebuy down there. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I would much prefer to see this bull market end sooner rather than extend it further. It would be quite painful to everybody involved to come down here first before going back up, but I really do not see the bull market ending here. As I've said before, bull markets do not end on 3 waves. That's all we have. Okay, we need at least 5 in order to end this bull market. All right, I think that pretty much sums everything up on Bitcoin that I wanted to look at here. Something to keep an eye on is this RSI downtrend, right? Once we broke the RSI downtrend here, that's when we broke out, right? Same sort of thing may happen here. Once we break the RSI downtrend, then it's time to rock and roll. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's look what the RSI and the hourly is doing. We've not topped out on the RSI on the hourly, so that's good news. That means we could do this action here. We could see a V recovery. So let's just wait and see what happens there. Kind of looks like maybe we've got a little mini downtrend going. It's kind of trying to break out of that hourly downtrend, so there's your hopium there. Potential, as long as we stay up, if we don't see a big dip down soon, we do have potential to complete this and give ourselves a V recovery here, which would be ideal, and really wouldn't be surprising if in fact that was the end of this second wave down in this diagonal. So all right, that's all I've got. Good night, everybody, and again, I'll be away most of the day tomorrow, but I will be around to do another nightly video tomorrow evening. All right, we'll see what the rest of Sunday brings. Bye-bye.